You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is August 12th, 2026, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we're bringing you the people and organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region, and bringing you news from a liberty perspective. So today we have a few kind of interesting stories that have been in the news. One of them is the migrant crush that happened in Spain a couple of weeks ago. So just managing to clear our desk to get to that. And then we're tying that into talking about the some of the chaos in the WNBA and some of the questions about gender that is bringing up. And finally, in our Knucklehead Noise Patrol, we wanted to talk about a few DEI stories that are kind of exploding. So anyways, that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get to any of that, let me introduce you to our panel. With us today again, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. My name's Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host. So we always like to start off the show with a quote of the day that has something to do with what we're going to be talking about a little bit. And this time it's somebody we haven't used before, but it is Heather McDonald, and she is a sort of an academic and an author. And she wrote the book, The Diversity Delusion. And this might, kind of tie into some of what we're going to talk about on the back end of the show. But it says diversity in the academy purported to be about bridge building and broadening people's experiences. It has had the opposite effect, dividing society, reducing learning, and creating an oppositional mindset that prevents individuals from seizing the opportunities available to them. And, we see this issue constantly popping up where, we see all these institutions that they claim they want to get away from, I guess, racism and some of these irrational bigotries, but they want to use those metrics to divide us in everything they do. They essentially trying to, they'll look at the results at the end of tests, and they'll say, oh, this group didn't do as well as that group, so let's change everything about how we give this test based upon that, and then they'll sit there and they'll say, well, we're noticing that this group is having some difference here. Well, let's just now treat everybody differently based upon upon the outcomes. And it's kind of nuts. And I think it is having exactly the effect that Catherine McDonald is noting, that it's really dividing us. I mean, it can't help but do that. If every time a central planner or an institution is going to look at you, they can't see past your skin color before they can actually decide how they're going to interact with you. And I think that's what she's getting at. And of course, it causes people not to really be sent the way the signals are telling them they should be sent. Maybe some people are being sent to institutions that they're not ready for, and then they wind up failing there. And so, yeah, just all kinds of misallocation of resources, of people and goods. So anyways, that's what I take out of that quote. Leon, what do you take from that quote?
I'll really start my my comments with a little bit of a personal story. So I was working at the Energy Commission, and I got in a discussion with one of my colleagues. He was, I don't want to say he was a friend, but he was certainly a strong acquaintance. And we were talking about, we somehow did a discussion about affirmative action. That's what DEI was called back in the day, right? Affirmative action. And I was telling him how much I despise affirmative action. And this guy, who I'd known for maybe at that time, known him for about a good 10, 12 years, we got along really well. And he looked at me and says, Leon, I could never really understand this. You are so much against affirmative action, and you would be the perfect affirmative action hire. That's what he said to me. Because this sort of identity politics poisons everything. It poisons the work you do. It poisons your relationships with people, as I just described. It poisons your ability to get promoted on your own merit. It poisons everything because you don't see people, it's just like you said, you don't see people as individuals. You see them as members of groups. And you have to look, somebody once called it the oppression Olympics. You are a victim, so you need some set of entitlement. And all of those people, white males in particular, Christian white males in particular, they are the oppressors. And now we must take revenge for all the oppression that they have committed. And we cannot see for 1 second the irony of racism in those sort of assessments. These people who push these DEI programs, who look at me and only see my skin color, they also embrace Martin Luther King as their hero and their champion. But Martin Luther King told us very clearly, he wanted his 4 children to grow up in a nation where they are judged, not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And I'm still waiting for that day when I could go to a job interview and I'm not looked at as someone looking for a hand up. I'm not looking for that. I want to be judged by the content of my character. I want to be judged by the merit that I bring to the organization. But these people, they are poisoning everything. Because blacks, well, they're not as good as us, so they need to lower standards to get by. Asians, well, they do a little bit too good. They are too good. We have to stop them in some way. We have to bring them down a notch. Well, the whites, of course, they are always being the oppressor. And they have another prescription for how they're going to fix, how they're going to socially engineer our society to fix it in a way that will make everything even and fair. The Marxist ideology, the Marxist outcome, they think is better for us. But they have done nothing but poison relationships and poison our professions as we all go about, as we try to live and strive in this great land of ours.
And I think the perfect example of what you said when you brought up Asians too is that, we've seen this certainly at the UCs, but the most prominent case was in Harvard, yes, where they went in front of the Supreme Court to defend that they created a metric called personality, right?
Yes.
like something that's completely subjective metric that nobody really has clear control over. Because I would be shocked if they ever even told these people, if they actually even evaluated something about them other than just whether the fact that they were Asian or black or white. Right. And of course, the way the metric worked out is that if you were black, you had this great and wonderful personality, and if we were Asian, you were just like, kind of the no fun to be around. Right?
We're always good and wonderful, and we are wonderful people. You can see the skin color. You can know I'm a wonderful person. Is when we look at you white guys, you go, no, those are the white devils. Well, we can't help them.
But oddly, the metric worked out to be the exact opposite of the merit metrics, which was how you did on your testing. You just flip those around, and that was your personality. And so the assumption was just, well, if you're Asian, you probably don't have much of a personality. If you're white, well, you're a little better than Asian, but still, not a great personality. The more melanin you had after that,
side of the spectrum. Yes.
I'll bet Elizabeth Warren was really upset to find out she had less personality than she thought she had after she took that genetic test. Found out that she didn't have any more Indian blood in her than Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. That's right.
So,
good Lord, it's just it just sickens me to the stomach to have to live with these things that all my work and accomplishments can only be evaluated through the lens of my skin color. I find it so insulting to the work that I have done to get here, and I've been insulted and so even more insulted by the fact that my parents worked so hard to educate me and to get me in shape to be where I am today. And to think that these damn fools could just look at me and know anything about me just because I'm a black man. This is so insulting to me and to my parents. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, we will definitely be talking more about identity throughout the show, but let's jump on to the topic that we didn't really get a chance to talk about, but it happened. I believe it was either July 31st or August 1st, I think, but Spain had this massive crush of immigrants that came over at a point that they had in, it was in a place called Cuenca, which is actually it's a piece of land, I guess, that Spain holds on the African continent. So it's an
island, actually. It's an island very close to Africa. It's an island.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll get into a little bit of that with the video so that everybody can kind of see where it is. But they literally had about that. The numbers are kind of fuzzy still, but they've gone up. The initial estimates were, I think, somewhere between 50 or 60,000. I think the most recent estimates I've heard are around 70,000 migrants came over in the span of a couple of hours on a community that wasn't much bigger than that, right? You talk about
according to what we found, there's about 84,000 people live on that island.
Yeah, it's almost like science fiction. Imagine doubling your population in a couple of hours, and that's sort of what happened. So we do have some video. So let's jump to this piece of video that we have to get everybody on the same page.
The images are stark, so are the numbers. About 60,000 migrants have crossed into Spain's North African territory of Ceuta from Morocco in the last 24 hours. That's according to Ceuta's president. At least 43 others died during the crossing. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez described the situation as an attack. He said all illegal migrants would be returned to Morocco as soon as possible. Officials say that more than 35,000 have returned to Morocco voluntarily so far.
So I'm not quite sure where Ceuta is. Where exactly is it?
Here's a quick explanation.
Ceuta is a Spanish North African territory.
It is on Morocco's northern coast and is separated from mainland Spain by the Strait of Gibraltar and has long been a focal point for migrants attempting to reach Europe.
So surely Spain must have somebody who's responsible for managing their border.
Just quickly put a button.
Okay.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
Oh, well, I guess she's not their borders are then. She certainly isn't any more effective than whoever is doing it over there.
Yeah. Jason, to be honest, it scares me that this idiot almost became president, almost. Thank God she did not. Well, Lord, okay.
Yeah. We certainly talked about this issue a lot, because that was a pivotal issue of why, Kamala didn't wind up getting to be president here in the United States this last time around. And it's precisely because of some of this crazy stuff that we've been seeing in Europe and at our own border while Biden was president.
Exactly.
And of course, we were hearing the exact same, discussions about migration over in Europe as we've heard from Democrats here in the United States. So let's get a little bit more in depth on the story. So we have a video where they're discussing some of the implications of all of this with an economist over there. And I think that, this brings out more of the details of the problems that were happening there because of this. So here we go.
And now to discuss the recent surge of illegal immigration into Ceuta, joining us now is Daniel Lacalle, Chief Economist at Tressis, International Financial Analyst, and author of the book, The New Global Economic Order. Can you describe what you're seeing?
Hi, Don. I think it's something that is worth mentioning because think about this. Ceuta is a city that has about 84,000 inhabitants. And suddenly, in a matter of hours, 72,000 illegal immigrants just appeared out of nowhere.
Almost double the size of a town in less than a few hours. That must have had catastrophic effects.
And think about the impact that that generated immediately. The immediate effect was absolutely devastating. Citizens all over the city were scared to death. They had to shut down their doors because the immigrants were trying to bust open any business that was closed. They would try to occupy private property. There were incidents in terms of security, in terms of health. It's been an absolute disaster. 84,000 inhabitants, 72,000 illegal immigrants.
So what was the Spanish government's response?
And the worst thing about it all is that the Spanish government immediately decided to run its narrative and propaganda machine and say that everything was under control very quickly. But it's not true. Today, as we speak, there are more than 6,000 immigrants that are still in the city that refuse to leave, that are trying to get permanent status. And the government is talking about sending them to the regional communities in mainland Spain.
So it sounds like the Spanish government has mishandled this in many ways.
So all of this is an absolute disaster that has been created by the pull factor of the pro-migration policies of the socialist government in Spain. Remember that Mr. Sanchez wrote an op-ed in the New York Times saying, "I am the Prime Minister of Spain, and this is why the West needs migration."
So let's hear the specific policies that cause this.
What exactly are the policies that you can point for us that encourages this?
Okay, number one was the mass migrant regularization implemented by the socialist government. It called for the regularization of 500,000 illegal immigrants, and it ended up in a process of regularization that reached almost 1.7 million.
And it sounds like, as always, free stuff promised by a socialist government was one of those perverse incentives that led to this.
Number two is the enormous subsidies that are given to illegal immigrants. A lot of those illegal immigrants are minors. The families send the minors to Spain, and they receive packages of support, and they receive housing, etc., with a very, very significant cost to the system, 45,000 euros, which is equivalent to $52,000, more or less. That's the cost per migrant of the system.
And so I just wanted to bring back the quote from Milton Friedman there, because as he talked about, I mean, these migrants are getting a value essentially of around $50,000 in support when they get there to Spain, which is absolutely nuts. I mean, if you were living... That. Yeah, exactly. And I've seen interviews with quite a few of these people as they come over, and a lot of them, some of them sound desperate and they'd like to work, but there's also a lot of them who are saying, hey, this is great. There's if you can stay here, there's healthcare and housing, all these other things. So,
all this good stuff. All this good stuff.
Yeah, but of course, there's so many came in at one time they couldn't possibly deal with that, and so that sort of broke this crazy socialist policy that they were going to hand this stuff to so many people when they came over, and it was just too many. But here is the article from the New York Times that he referenced from the Spanish Prime Minister. His name is Pedro Sanchez, and it's, "I'm the Prime Minister of Spain. This is why the West needs migrants." And this was posted in the New York Times. So this was an op-ed that got sent there. And, I just want to bring you through a few of the highlights there. But, clearly this is advocacy for migrants coming there. But, he talks about, that they need to be harmonized with citizens' rights because, one of the things he says is, well, they aren't able to receive higher education. And I mean, excuse me. I mean, they're coming in from someplace else. Why is it Spain's duty to provide higher education for people who are just showing up on their borders? Now, another thing he says,
it would be nice. It would be nice to know what are the boundaries of that, because anybody show up at the border is entitled to this quote unquote free education. Is that what Mr. Sanchez is saying? This is insane.
Well, that's what he's insinuating. Now he
Yeah.
also does say, to be fair, he says, and will also allow them to pay taxes and contribute to Social Security. But I mean, if they're getting the benefits first, who's to say if they're actually going to get any work out of them? Right? So I don't know. I mean, I certainly, going back to Milton Friedman's statement, I mean, his idea in a libertarian society, the idea of why it would be good to have migration, if you truly had a libertarian society, it's because you have no perverse incentives. You're not offering free stuff to the people. So if they do come, it's because they're going to provide goods and services to other people in exchange for goods and services. And that's kind of like no man is an island, right? I mean, this is what economics is all about. But the idea that you say, hey, you can just show up and get free stuff and not have to do anything, that's a problem. And somehow the left never seems to be able to figure this stuff out. These socialists like this Sanchez guy. But anyways, getting back to his stuff, he says, it is our duty to become the welcoming and tolerant society, that he goes back to talking about that, that Spain was decades ago, I guess, but that's what he's trying to say here. And he says, the West needs people. And he says, unless these other countries in the West embrace migration, they will experience a sharp demographic decline that will prevent them from keeping their economics and public services afloat. Their public health care and pension systems will suffer, right? So this is all saying our socialism is going to fall apart unless we bring in new workers.
Yeah.
But we're going to hand those workers free stuff so that they don't have to work. I don't understand how this works. I mean, it seems like such a harebrained scheme, almost like a perpetual motion machine that this guy is trying to design here. And then a few other things I wanted to pull out of here. He says he tries to equate that migrants are exactly the same as their citizens, and he says they are driven by the same forces that affect our own citizens: poverty, inequality, unregulated markets, barriers to education, and healthcare. So, I mean, he's literally saying, hey, these people need healthcare. These people, want education. So that means they're coming there. So you're going to give it to them. I mean, it's kind of nuts, right? I mean, it's one thing if they're coming and, there's this moral exchange that's happening between people. But if you're just offering this stuff, it's just absolutely nuts. And of course, he gives away his socialism right here when he says unregulated markets are the
Unregulated
problem.
market. Yes. Yeah, that's the problem. Of course. That's very clear, Jason. Can't you see? That's the problem.
Well, one last thing I wanted to point out too, he takes a shot at Trump here when he says MAGA style leaders may say that our country can't handle taking so many migrants, that this is a suicidal move. And yeah, that's what we just saw. Like 70,000 people crushing your border in a matter of a few hours in a place that barely had that many citizens. So yeah, that's kind of a suicidal move. I mean, it's like he wrote this op-ed earlier this year. So that shows you how relevant and timing this all was. And then of course there was a recent decision by the Spanish Supreme Court. So he had just granted amnesty to all of these migrants. And then the Supreme Court of that country just came out with a ruling that said, hey, if people come by the ocean, I guess there's something in their laws or the Constitution that says, hey, they have to come through, a normal port of entry, probably kind of like what it's saying here, if they want to get consideration. And then the Supreme Court kind of overruled that and said, no, even if they come from the ocean, so all these people just swam over.
Yeah, there you go. What do you expect?
It was within like a day or so of this Supreme Court decision. So, I mean, if you think incentives don't matter, you're nuts. And that's, goes right back to Milton Friedman. We just cure the socialism. We can cure so many of these problems. But anyways, what are some of your thoughts on all this, Leon?
Well, I have a mild disagreement with Milton Friedman, even though I think the essence of his quote is correct, because I mean, but he obviously believed at his base that there's possible to form a libertarian society. Well, I think that's impossible, okay? These politicians are always looking for votes. And that's exactly what's happening in Spain right now. We have this lunatic as a Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, who just started to implement a plan whereby they're going to end up regularizing or legalizing maybe about 1.8, maybe almost 2 million people. And Spain, remember, Spain is a country of about 50 million people. So you're talking, if they get to the 2 million mark, you're talking about maybe 4% of the population, all right, that you're just going to bring in, and you're going to spend a whole bunch of money. And Spain don't have that money to spend anyway, but they're going to spend all this money to bring these people in. The big problem about all of this, many of these people are coming from Morocco, which is a majority Muslim country. And normally, when Muslims move into different places, they don't come in to assimilate. They don't. They come in to form their little Islamic ghettos, I would say. Because right now, in France, in Germany, in England, which have had a lot of migration from Africa, Northern Africa, mostly Muslim populations, you're seeing these no-go zones. That's what's happening. That means local authorities like French police or like German police cannot go into these areas that have become these no-go zones. Because Angela Merkel, who was supposed to be a conservative, by the way, she took in 1 million migrants during her time, but she's now out of office. Well, you know, Biden here in America, he took in 10 to 15. We don't know. I mean, they come from all over the world. England have taken another bunch. Spain is taking in another bunch. France have been taking in a bunch of people for a number of years. And these people are not, I mean, it's one thing to say, well, okay, we're taking in migrants or we're taking in these illegal aliens, whatever the hell you want to call them. It's one thing to take them in and get them assimilated. Language, culture, way of life, they becoming productive citizens is one thing to make that case. But this is not what is happening. Not at all. Not even close. That
and Leon, sorry to break in, but if you want to find out what is happening from Leon, you're watching on public access, you're going to have to go to knuckleheadsofliberty.com to hear the rest of his thoughts, where you can catch the rest of this show and all of our other shows that are archived there. And again, we're going to talk a little bit about the WNBA and some of the crazy DEI stories that have been exploding in the rest of the show here. So anyways, go check that out, knuckleheadsofliberty.com. So back to the show, Leon.
Yes. So that is not what is happening. What is happening, we are having these ghettos of migrants. And they are not, some of them do end up working and that kind of stuff, mostly in menial jobs and that kind of stuff. But many of them are in these ghettos and are taking welfare. And this is a very unfortunate thing of all of these things that's going on. They are not being assimilated. They're not being integrated in any sense of the word. You go now, I mean, I've been to London once, but this was long before East London. East London is almost like a third world country because they have taken in so many migrants. So some of them, they have children who are British citizens, but they're in this East London area, and there are other cities. It's the same thing. They are forming these little migrant ghettos, and in some of the cases, police are not enforcing some of the laws. They becoming no-go zones. In some places they're trying to implement Sharia law. In some of these places, Sharia law in a Western country. That's what's going on in many of these all over Europe. You have these no-go zones where Sharia law is being implemented, and everybody is trying to lie about it and trying to tell us, no, that's not what's happening. These people are good people, and they're coming here just to work and just to this and just to that. It's a bunch of nonsense. It's a bunch of lies. These people are not getting integrated in societies, and these are going to cause all sorts of long-term problems. Before I end, there was this guy. What's his name? He's a British guy. I can't remember his name. Very well known on the internet. He wrote a book called the sudden death of Europe. which speaks about this very same problem, about migrants coming in and not being integrated or assimilated. And he's
talking about, is that Douglas Murray, or is that
Douglas Murray? Thank you, okay. Douglas Murray. Yes, and he spoke about this very problem, and this is going to be a problem down the road unless we do something about it. Now everybody thinks Trump is evil to try to deport these people. No, he's not. No, he's not. American culture and way of life is something we're defending. And if these people cannot come here to integrate and be a part of society, I think they should go back where they come from. As a matter of fact, I don't think they should be able to cross our borders illegally in the first case. But if they can't, if they get across the border and they cannot be integrated to our society, and they still expect us to pay them all sort of welfare and all sort of goodies and all these wonderful things that the Democrats like to promise, no, they need to go. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It may sound heartless, but I'm sorry. They need to go.
I mean, I think that the bottom line is that, Democrats could go a long ways. I mean, just to sort of call the bluff and say, okay, fine. We'll stop welfare, we'll stop handing out free stuff to all these people, but they won't do it. I mean, that's the crazy thing. In all these places we see, not only are they handing a lot of explicitly free services to people, but they're also massive fraud in the other services. Like, yes. Suddenly how many Somali people suddenly became autistic in Minnesota?
In Minnesota.
Yeah, it's a miraculous number of, it's almost like this should be in every science paper out there, and yet there's nothing in there about it. It's just a bunch of money escaping the treasury.
Exactly.
So, I mean, wouldn't that be a fascinating finding for the science, right? If
I'm telling you.
So you say, why is there all of this autism from Somalia? I can't believe it,
I'm telling you, it must be something in the water or something, Jason.
Yeah.
Yes, must be.
Well, mysteriously, we can only measure it in government dollars. We can't measure it in any other metric, right? So yeah, it's kind of nuts, but that's the way it rolls. But if they would just give that up, then we could actually have the experiment. We could see it. Because Milton Friedman, if you watch Free to Choose, and I highly recommend it, that was sort of a gateway thing for me in the Liberty. But when he talks about migration, he refers back to the migration of the 1920s, roughly, in that period of time, 1910s, 20s. And there wasn't any government handouts. Government was just a tiny portion of the size it is today.
Sure.
And they weren't handing out a bunch of free stuff. In fact, I believe migrants had to go through a rigorous process to get in to show that, hey, look, I don't have a disease or anything else like that, and I'm not a criminal.
Yes.
And I believe they might have even had to say that, hey, there's somebody who can vouch for me or something like that. I'm not 100% sure about all of those requirements at LSIM, but for the most part, it allowed a lot of people in, but just with the right incentives, right? I mean, it was not this thing that, free stuff. Now, there were times when we did offer free stuff, like to people who came here, and we were trying to expand out into the wilderness. And so, they would have times when if a person was willing to go out there, anybody, a citizen, whatever, to the country, the idea was that we get people out in those areas to homestead so that we could grow the country. But, but that wasn't something that was just a free handout to migrants. And it was a lot of work. You were going someplace where there was no infrastructure and no welfare.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
But it gets back to the point, though. It gets back to the point. I mean, this is my little disagreement with Milton Friedman. The politicians will always poison any sort of system like you're proposing. That way you want to say, well, let's give up the welfare and let's have the experiment of people being able to freely move across borders and that kind of stuff. But politicians will always poison that because they're always looking for votes. And they will always do that. They will always poison. I mean, even in the earlier waves of migration we have had here in the United States, yes, we didn't have welfare. They came and they had to go work and that kind of stuff and things like that, and which was fine. But what eventually happened? The politicians got in there and they start to poison the system. And look at the system today. Okay?
Yeah.
Biden allowing people to come in the country, 10 to 15 million, I don't even know what the number is. But they showed up at our border with shirts that saying Biden Harris or Biden let us in. What the hell is this? Where is this entitlement coming from? This is craziness. So this is the point. This is the only point I'm making. While that experiment is a noble thing to think about, I don't think it's possible to do it. Anyway,
I think though, Leon, that the one issue I think here is that if we are ever to become a libertarian society or a much more liberty-oriented society, it won't be because a leader takes us there. It'll be because the people wind up, becoming educated enough about the problems of letting government lead them around, kind of like Animal Farm or whatever, right? I mean, if people will have to, come to this knowledge themselves, because you can't have a liberty society where it's just a leader that's pushing it all, right? I mean, that's the whole point. It has to be everybody is standing for these principles of liberty. And it reminded me of the quote we used, the very first quote of the day we used on this show was from Javier Milei. And he said, and he is actually a libertarian president in Argentina who wound up getting that position despite the fact that they had been knee deep in socialism. But this wonderful quote, he said, I didn't come here to guide sheep. I came here to awaken lions. And I mean, I think that's ultimately what has to happen, right? I mean, he can't be somebody who's just, telling everybody we're going to do this liberty oriented way. It has to be that the people demand their freedom and to have government not in their pockets, to keep government small and narrow, to understand that we need to in order to be free, that's what it takes, right? I mean, the more you let government into your pockets, the less free you are. So,
true. That's absolutely true.
And that does bring us. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean and this is where we really need that sense of individual liberties becoming part of our republic again, because I think we have lost a lot. The government have grown large and be way out of boundary, even the boundaries of the Constitution. And I think in the process of that, many of our individual liberties have been crushed. They are attacking free speech. They're attacking our Second Amendment rights and on and on. There are all sorts of things that they're attacking. But if we could ever get back to that liberty-oriented society where individual rights are superior to the rights of the state, then I think we could probably have that experiment. You're right, we probably could. But until that day, and I don't see how we could get back to that day, until that day, it just will never work. It never will.
Well, there is a little bit of a shining hope in Argentina, and it's funny because he also was commenting on this whole debacle that happened in Spain, and he's essentially saying, "Hey, look, this guy just like we were essentially accusing of Biden and Harris, this guy is just looking to pad his future votes." So in Spain is what he was saying. So, anyways, that was Malay's take on all this, but sort of the great hope for the libertarian movement if we are to have a libertarian state at some point.
I really do wish Malay all the success, because I think it is really a first big step in trying to see our country get back to liberty-oriented policies that will ultimately be the road to true success as a country, is when you could get the individuals back to be more liberty-oriented rather than to that sense of dependency upon government. So I really do wish him more success.
Because as Hayek said, or demonstrated for us in his book, the socialist promises are just the road to serfdom,
exactly,
not the road to success. So,
yes.
anyways, but you know, I did want to migrate over to a different story, and that is the some of the craziness that is going on in the WNBA. And it's also kind of interesting too, because as you said, Leon, you know, a lot of these migrants that happen to be coming over both to the US right now in some places and certainly in Europe are Islamic. And if you start to get huge amounts, I mean, imagine if you had 50,000, you had a society that was literally, they said Quito was 80,000 people roughly.
84.
And they had over 84, and they had over 70,000 come into that town in 2 hours. Right. Now imagine if they were all allowed to stay.
Yeah.
If you had something like a WNBA in Spain, it wouldn't exist after that time, right? Because if those people got to vote, they would be voting against things like the WNBA.
Exactly.
Right? This is not a Muslim value to have a league of essentially, you know, a suspicious number of lesbian players and potentially transgender players out there not wearing modest garments, I guess, you know, as they would have you wear in some of those places. So because that was one thing too. I mean, if you think back to those videos we showed, you know, almost all those people were men. Why is it that almost all of them were men? Because, you know, in their culture, the women aren't the ones coming, right? They're staying home. Yes. And some of them, I think, have even been interviewed saying, hey, no, it's for the women to stay back. It's our job to come over here, you know, get the foothold, right? So, so I mean, these things aren't equal by sex or anything else, but it is kind of an interesting transition, because here we have this league that is going through all kinds of turmoil of its own at the moment. You know, they have issues of race going on here, trying to figure out what a woman is, just all kinds of nutty things. And so I do have a video that'll at least get us into a few of those things, and I'm sure we'll divert into a few more things on it. But here you go.
When it comes just to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport, I feel very strongly about that. I think that's why you have Title IX. That's why you have some of the greats in women's sports. If Title IX and women's sports weren't protected, then you wouldn't hear about any type of women in sport. And so I think in the future, it's just really important to protect.
And that was WNBA star Sophie Cunningham, who has become one of the leading voices for protecting women's and girls' sports.
Okay, sounds reasonable. So what's the problem?
And right now, the league's full court mess is bigger than one foul, one social media post, or one game. Now, two former NBA players, Cena's Cancer Freedom and Royce White, say they identify as women and want to play in the WNBA, forcing the league to answer the question it has spent months avoiding.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
The meaning of the fact that you can't give me a straight answer about something as fundamental as what a woman is underscores the dangers of the kind of progressive education that we are hearing about.
A league built to showcase women still cannot clearly say who qualifies as one, while its players' union claims it wants out of politics, then tells Americans to call their lawmakers.
Meanwhile, let's hear from Ennis Freedom.
After careful consideration and reviewing the current eligibility guidelines, I am officially declaring myself a WNBA prospect. If simply declaring who you are is all that's required, then I meet every single requirement necessary to compete in the WNBA. My team and I have carefully examined the WNBA's eligibility criteria and governing framework surrounding self-identification and inclusion. Based on the current guidelines, I can and am officially declaring my eligibility for the upcoming WNBA draft in May 2027.
Sounds like it's all politics.
The NBA, as we know, has spent years embracing activism, but now the players' union says it will not be used as a political pawn, while in the same statement telling folks to call their lawmakers about Title IX. So is the problem really politics in sports, or just politics the league does not like?
No, the issue is politics that you disagree with.
Meanwhile, with all this chaos going on, Sophie Cunningham is taking a beating.
An absolute disgrace. That's what one fan is calling the decision from referees during this moment at a WNBA game on Saturday. Chicago Sky guard Dejani Carrington was ejected and charged with a flagrant 2 foul because of this block against Indiana Fever player Sophie Cunningham. Now, the moment escalated when both players had to be held back from going at one another. And when asked why Cunningham was not issued a technical foul for pushing Carrington after that play, refs called the reaction acceptable due to the severity of the initial contact.
And of course, somebody's going to say racism.
Now, Carrington blasted the Indiana Fever team after being axed from the game. This is what she posted on Threads.
So there you go. And there's so much more than this. I mean, there's the, God, who is that? Caitlin Clark. And then there's some other.
Clark, yeah.
Yeah, and so she's a white player, and she's apparently the best in the league. And I mean, I've never even really paid much attention to any of this stuff. It feels like a sideshow, but you know. And then there's a black player who, Angel Reese, I think her name is, and
yes,
she feels like she should be the best player in the league. And I mean,
it's a mess. These people gonna do everything they can to destroy this league. Okay, you know, there's a giant hypocrisy going on here on both counts here, both the transgender issue and on the race issue. Let's take the race issue first. If we had a predominantly white league and a black player entered that league and was being treated the way Caitlin Clark, who is white, is being treated, I mean, this girl have been poked. That same woman who committed that fragrant flower on Sophie and Cunningham. That same woman poked Caitlin Clark during a game in her eye and drew blood. Okay, and I don't know if there was even a fragrant flower in that particular case, but I mean this girl had been punched while she was on the ground. She had been hip checked and spread out on the ground. All sort of fouls have been committed against her. I mean, they are doing everything they can to destroy Caitlin Clark's career, only because she is white and they do not want her to become the face of the WNBA. Just because she's white. The league is, I think, 85%, 90% black. And I think 1/3 of them are part of the LGBTQ club or whatever the hell you want to call it. But
certainly more than 1/3 of the audience, probably.
Yes. and this is the madness that's going on in the WNBA. Since Caitlin Clark entered this league, viewership have been up, stadiums are getting more full, better contracts are being given to players. All of these things happening since Caitlin Clark came into the league. Nobody cared about women basketball before Caitlin Clark came in. I mean, as a matter of fact, I used to take my boys to professional basketball all the time, NBA. I never take them to a WNBA game, never once, because nobody cared. The Monarchs were here in the Sacramento area. They went out of business. I never saw them play. Okay, and they had a couple of good players. It just was not something interesting. But Caitlin Clark came and changed all that, and they're still trying to destroy this woman. Now, and this thing, I think, if they are successful in destroying Caitlin Clark's career, is going to destroy this league. Now, the other thing that is going to destroy this league.
Well, wait, I got to say one thing, though, Liam, before you go on. This is a league that is still not profitable. Right?
Exactly. Oh yeah, I forgot
this
that.
is going to destroy this league, and I'm sitting here thinking, how is it? I mean, it's true they're getting more eyeballs recently, but it's not. It somehow they still are defying being profitable. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, but that's a good point you're raising. The only reason that these people are still around is because the NBA, the men, are subsidizing them and keeping them going. There's some talk now, well, maybe because Caitlin is here and they're getting a few more eyeballs and a little better contracts in terms of the networks and that kind of stuff, they might start turning a profit within the next 2 or 3, maybe 4 years or something. There's some talk about that. I don't know if it will ever turn out.
Well,
But on
Leon, you said the men are keeping them going. I mean, if Enos Freedom and White get in there, they're really going to keep them going. Because I will watch if those guys show up. I'll at least watch a few games.
Yes. There's a real issue here with this transgender issue. I don't know if you know who Clay Travis is. Do you know who Clay Travis is?
I think so. Is that Barstool Sports or something?
Yeah, or Outkick or some. Yeah, he's
okay.
Outkick or whatever it is, something like that. He have made an offer to the WNBA. The last WNBA champion was the Las Vegas A's. Okay, he have offered $10 million to the Las Vegas A's if they could beat a high school male team. Okay, $10 million. And Elon Musk have just got into it. He said he might even be willing to put in a little more money to make this really a good deal for them. And up to now, the WNBA have not responded to that offer. But the fact of the matter is, all of these people are a bunch of woke idiots. You know what they say? You go, it's no joke. You go woke, you'll end up broke. And this is exactly where they're heading. Because they're now talking about bringing men into possibly bringing men into the into the WNBA. And I'm so glad these two guys are pushing this issue, and we might have more. And I'll be so happy about it. Let them push this issue to the max to show these people what idiots they are. Because when you think about it, a woman cannot compete with a man. This is not a sexist statement. It is true. Okay? Men are taller, faster, and stronger. There is no way to get around that. Okay? Just because I could get up tomorrow morning and say I'm a woman, it doesn't change my chromosomes. And I cannot change it. But these idiots want to believe, oh, we should be inclusive. You know, and that the head coach of the Indiana Fever, Sophie Cunningham plays for the Indiana Fever. The head coach said, you know, they asked her about this very issue about men coming into the WNBA. She said, you know, I'm not really educated enough about that issue to know if men could not educated enough. I believe in inclusion, and I think, you know, inclusion is always the thing we should have this stuff. You know, she wants to say she's supported, but she don't want to say she's supported at the same time. But the point is, though, you're going to destroy this league, because if you're going to bring men into here, and these men who are now fake, really fake women, if you're going to allow them to come in and that kind of stuff, you think the public is going to sit down and be watching this sort of thing? They will just go watch the real thing. They'll go watch the real thing. They'll just go watch the NBA. What would you need the WNBA for? We have pretending women playing basketball with these women. Well, why? Who's going to want to watch it? I know I would.
You know, Leon, I mean, I got to ask you a real question, though. Are you actually watching now? Because I sure as heck am not.
Okay. Yes, I have to confess. Okay. Now, since Caitlin Clark came into the she sound kind of a little bit woke to me. Okay, she haven't taken a position on this transgender issue, but she's some of the other things she has said sound a little bit woke to me. But I really like to see her play. I really do. I really enjoy seeing her play. So I do watch games when the Indiana Fever is playing. Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham, that the same woman with the foul, who was fouled. They both play for the Indiana Fever, and I do enjoy watching them play. So I do watch those games. But if these men started coming to that into this league, I could tell you, I need to watch no more. If I want to see men. If I want to see men play, I could go watch the NBA, which I do sometimes with my son. But I don't need to go watch men pretending to do women. What do I need that for? We already have we have a men's league. We could go watch that. We don't need this damn nonsense. So
Leon, that's the whole point. I don't know who's really watching for the quality of the basketball. I mean, if you talk about all the stuff that's been happening over these last few years since Caitlin Clark has come in, there's also been the controversy. There's been the controversy with this Angel Reese character. There's been sort of the black and white issue that's come up. They've had dildo gate, where dildos are thrown on the court.
That too.
Now you have the trans issue and the Sophie Cunningham issue. And it's like there is one sideshow after another that has nothing to do with the game that has, I believe, is what's really increasing the audience. And I mean, if Enos Cantor, Freedom, and that other guy showed up, I'd watch it just to see these people lose their minds. These wokesters, right? It's not for the basketball; it's for the sideshow, right? And I'm wondering if that's what people are really. Because I mean, here's a thing that came up recently, but when they had their All-Star game back in 2025, these gals, they were wearing these shirts and they saying, "Pay us what you owe us." And I mean, this league is losing money. It's like, what the hell do they owe you?
Since the inception of this league, there have not been a single year where the WNBA has turned a profit. It has not happened as yet. So what the hell does this mean? Pay us what you owe us. What we owe you is zero. Period. Okay? Get it straight.
I mean, you're talking about a league where almost nobody can dunk. Just a handful of people. I think the number is you can count them on two hands, maybe, and an extra finger or toe. I don't know. It's and that's one of the most exciting, things and events in a game is when you see somebody just slam something down with authority on somebody else, and that whole aspect of the game is even missing with these people. And so I told you about this before, but not on the camera. But we had I'd taken my kids to a Harlem Globetrotters game. And it's probably the best seats we ever had at a basketball game because we were right down there, I think on the second row or something like that on the floor. And it was, it was kind of a fun event. There's, all these people doing these amazing tricks and, just high flying dunks and everything else. But the sad and embarrassing part of the game is they had one woman player on the team. And of course, she couldn't do anything that all these men could do. I mean, she was just like spinning a ball on her finger, which all these guys could do too. And then, she was like, kind of, doing a few dribbling tricks, which most of the guys could do too. Right?
Yes,
exactly. So it wasn't anything exceptional. And then they started these chants of girl power, girl power, girl power. And then they wanted all the little girls, and I had my daughter there with me, and I just felt kind of embarrassed for her. They're sitting there, and they're making this huge deal about some gal who can do less than 20% of what the men on the floor can do, right? Exactly. And they're just pandering like crazy, and all the little girls are running up. They look a little confused, but they're all happy, yelling, "Girl power!" Girl power. And it's funny. I mean, like I go and I watch women's tennis. I don't, I feel like I'm seeing a real thing, right? It's a slightly different sport than men's tennis, but I feel like I've seen a real event. And if I watch figure skating, it's different what the men and women do, but you feel like you've seen something real when you see the women do what they're doing out there. So they're entertaining. They're putting butts in seats out there. But some of these sports where they're just it just feels like with the WNBA, they're not really offering anything better or different than what the men are offering, except like you said, I mean, they wouldn't likely even be able to beat a men's high school basketball team.
They know it too. That's why they have not taken up Clay Travis' offer.
Yeah. So, I mean, anybody who's actually seen a real, really good high school basketball, those guys are pretty amazing athletes out there, even in their senior years.
I've seen a few in my time. But, before we leave this topic, there's a major hypocrisy that is ongoing with this transgender issue that people hardly ever talk about. And that is, where are the trans men trying to get into the NBA or trying to get into any men's sports? Where are they?
Yeah.
If it does not make a difference, if men and women in terms of sports and those sort of things, if it makes no difference, then where are the trans men fighting to get into the NBA? It does not happen. It does not exist, because even these people who claim to be, I'm trans, so I need this and I want that and all that kind of stuff, even they know that there's a big difference between men and women. They just don't want to acknowledge it because the men can dominate the women, but it can't. It's not the other way around. So they are always silent about that issue, always.
Yep. Yeah, and one other thing I wanted to mention as well before we leave this topic is, the guy at the center of this story. It's funny, it's a story about a women's league, and there's a guy at the center. but Enos
What an irony! What an irony!
Enos Cantor Freedom, though, I did want to let people know that there is a lot more to his backstory than is getting said in most of these news stories right now.
Yes.
If you actually recall, and if I had a little more time, I would have developed a little bit of video for that. But he is actually the player who was he was the one who challenged a lot of the league's messaging on China. He had spent most of his career starting to question his home country of Turkey, and he would make a lot of statements about how terrible policies were to some people, where he felt like, that there was some real human rights violations going on in Turkey, and he was making a big stink about that, and the league had no problem. But the moment he started questioning China and with his platform of being an NBA player, the league shut him down immediately. And what he tried to do was he tried to wear sneakers that said "Free Tibet," I think was what they were saying the first time, because China has had an aggressive policy toward Tibet, and they literally stopped him from playing in the game that he brought those sneakers out. They came out and right before the game, and they said, "You ain't wearing those sneakers on the floor." And so, and it was kind of funny, because then before the next game, they got him to agree not to wear the sneakers that said "Free Tibet," and then he brought out a different pair of sneakers that said "Free the Uyghurs," which are this huge religious population in China that has been essentially put into concentration camps there. And so the league blackballed this guy, and they wound up essentially they blacked out all the Celtics games. They wound up kicking him off his team. They made like some kind of goofy trade to the Rockets, and then the Rockets just released him and didn't do anything, and no team would touch him. So this was a guy that literally gave up his basketball career, and he was a decent player. I mean, he was, I think he was getting double-digit points, I believe, and probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 or 9 rebounds a game or something like that. I can't remember. I looked up his statistics quite a while ago, but he was a worthy player. He wasn't like these gals who are there just because another league is supporting him. I mean, he was producing for the league, and he wound up getting blackballed because of his standing up for liberty issues. And here he comes again. It's like, well played, Mr. Freedom.
He added that freedom. He added that freedom to his name. I think, I don't know, must have been about 5-6 years ago, whatever it was. Because that was not his birth name. But hey, you have to admire the guy. You have to admire the guy. He have stood on a lot of principles, and you have gotten a lot of trouble for it, but he took the consequences. And here he is again, trying to make a point about the absurdity of this transgender nonsense. Okay? So I'm going to say it here, and if anybody wants to say it's controversial, come talk to me, okay? There's no such thing as a transgender person. It is nonsense, okay? It is biological nonsense. We are all born with chromosomes which cannot be changed. No drugs, no surgery can change the chromosomes of any individual. So this transgender nonsense is just that. It's nonsense.
And Mr. Freedom has I guess real liberty credentials. So let's put it that way. I mean, he's put his money where his mouth is, and he's
Exactly.
stood for this when it counted.
Yes.
So
Yes.
he's standing right now against the insanity of the wokesters in this country. And I think it's marvelous. And I think anybody who, you know, feels like their kids have had this propaganda pushed on their kids in the schools is, you know, got to be thankful to Mr. Freedom for what he's doing here.
Indeed.
So
Indeed.
second
And
act, yeah.
and I would love the WNBA to respond to Clay Travis about his offer. And I think Elon Musk might get in on the little game too. So it'll be good. It'll be good. I want him to respond. Please respond. I'm begging.
Yeah. Too bad I didn't get a quote from Enos Friedman for this, or Freedom for this show, rather. So, anyways, let's jump on to other identity craziness, and that is the craziness around DEI, which, you know, apparently DEI is being challenged in the WNBA because they don't want to let Mr. Freedom in. But there are some real problems, some real scandals that are occurring outside the WNBA.
Yes,
and that brings us to Cambridge University, where they have a guy named Jason Arday, who was an absolute fraud, and he got in just because they were checking the melanin, and that's about it. They weren't checking to see that anything else was real except for his skin color. And so I have a video on that, and let's go to that.
Meet the most inspiring man in British academia. At least that's how the story went. Meet the most inspiring man in British academia. At least that's how the story went.
I learned to speak just before the age of 12, so I was 11. I learned to read and write when I was 18 years of age. Those milestones became quite significant. 12 years after learning to read and write, I gained a PhD, and then I ended up becoming one of the youngest professorial chairs in Cambridge's history.
Autistic at 3, mute at 11, illiterate until 18, and then a PhD in one of Cambridge's top chairs.
Wow, this guy sounds amazing. Almost too good to be true. Let's hear some more.
And they didn't just hire him, they crowned him.
The board of electors on your interview day were absolutely unanimous. We are so lucky to have you. You are the best in the world in terms of the research that you do.
Best in the world. It is a beautiful story, much of it now called into question.
Uh-oh.
Take the PhD, much of it allegedly copied, nearly word for word from another student's thesis. A resume padded with jobs he never held, including a professorship at Ohio State, which says it never heard of him. And a life story stacked with hardships and heroics, each one more unbelievable than the last. A brain tumor wiped his memory right before his final dissertation exam, so he relearned his whole entire thesis in weeks. He ran 30 marathons in 35 days. Impressive. The last 9 on a broken leg.
30 marathons in 35 days? This sounds like he's probably the most prolific runner in the world. Let's hear some more of him running away from the truth.
Turned up in a documentary that aired in 1964. 21 years before he was born. Someone even mailed a severed pig's head to his parents as a threat. One problem, police say they can't find record of it. It all came crashing down last week when he resigned in disgrace.
Uh-oh, looks like it's time to come clean, Mr. Arday.
Did he own a word of it? Not one. The relentless accusations, speculation, and public commentary have taken a profound toll on me and on those I love. But there comes a point when the personal cost becomes too great. And that resignation letter allegedly written with the assistance of AI. No apology, no accountability, just a con man playing the victim. And he's still cashing in. His memoir dropped today. It opens on a prophecy, a stranger telling young Arday he's destined for great and unfortunate things. That scene, very similar to Spartacus, the Gladiator TV show. He plagiarized his thesis. Did he plagiarize his own origin story?
So a background beyond belief, and surely the great minds at Cambridge would have caught on to these lies. Let's find out.
None of this was hard to catch. Yet one of the top universities on earth handed him a top job, a building full of geniuses, and not one of them saw a con man in plain sight. They didn't miss it. They'd already decided merit was not the point. And Arday couldn't agree more.
The idea of meritocracy is it's great in theory, but in actual practice, it falls time and time and time again, because meritocracy in itself is not equal. There is no equity in meritocracy. Only a small proportion or some group of people from society benefit from meritocracy.
So there's no equity in meritocracy, apparently. It just sounds like so much woke BS. And he was a professor there. So, I mean, who paid the price for all of this woke nonsense?
So he doesn't believe in merit, and the people who paid for it were his students. Their families spent a fortune on the best education money could buy and got a professor who wouldn't show up. One student called him terrible. He skipped meetings, no feedback, hour-long sessions that fizzled out in 20 minutes. And when the student complained, Arde allegedly implied she was racist and cited her, quote, white privilege.
It always ends with, you're just a racist. But Leon, these claims, they sound almost as unbelievable as Kim Jong-un talking about how he hits a hole in one in every golf shot.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
He doesn't poop, and he was born under a rainbow and all.
Mr. Ode, when he was first challenged on his background and about his dissertation and with all the plagiarism that was ongoing, that man called the police on 2 people because he claimed the harassment and all this kind of stuff. This is unbelievable. This is how DI and all these other identity politics and all this other bullshit does infect the brain and turn your brain to mush. This man lied throughout his entire career about his degrees, about his background, about raising $5 million for all sorts of charities and running all these great marathons in 30 days or whatever the hell he claimed. Lied about it. And when challenged, you know what he do? He go play he's a victim and go to the police and tell them this about harassment. The balls of this man is unbelievable. God help us.
It occurs to me that if we can all watch a sporting event and nobody can see the absurdity of some dude in a UFC fight beating the hell out of a woman, or seeing these big guys come in and outrun and outswim and everything else, the ladies, and they all act like this is normal and this is what a woman is supposed to be, then is it really that hard to fall for some guy who claims that he's just like the most amazing person ever? That somehow he ran 35 marathons in 35 days, 30 marathons in 35 days. He would be the most impressive runner in the world, probably.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah.
And yet nobody's ever heard of him doing
but this, on a serious note, these DOI things, it poisons the mind. It poisons people to do all sorts of things. I don't know if you remember who Claudine Gay was. She was the
Claudine Gay, yeah.
Yeah, she was
Harvard,
the head of Harvard, head of
I think it was Harvard. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was it Harvard. Yeah, I believe it was Harvard. Yes, and she had the same problem. She rose and ended up being the president of the entire university or something like that, and then found out her dissertation was loaded with all sorts of plagiarism in it. And that woman still works at Harvard. She still makes $900,000 a year to this day, even though they found out this plagiarism that she had in her dissertation. This is unbelievable.
Leon, it's unbelievable. It's the word. Another word for unbelievable is DEI. That's what it's come to mean, I guess. It's just unbelievable, right? And, and the crazy thing is, this isn't just one thing, right? I mean, the Claudine Gay thing happened a couple years ago or something, but there's been a string of these crazy things where people clearly who shouldn't be in these jobs got these crazy, got these job situations because of DEI, right?
Yes.
They simply lied. Nobody bothers to check. And then it's like, oh, well, why would we check? Because he's got the right skin color.
There you go. You have the right skin color. Maybe I was I was a fool. I didn't take advantage of the right skin color.
There you go. Well, we're going to bring you through a few other stories that are similar to this because this is not a one-off. And at least in this case, this was Cambridge that made themselves look like a bunch of nuts and losers. I don't know if if there's a government tie-in to Cambridge because it's over in England, but certainly some of our colleges have some government tie-in.
I think Cambridge is a public university, it's subsidized by the state. I believe it is. Yes.
Okay, well then there you go. So it is a government story then, but we have a whole bunch of other government stories that happen in this country where clearly the results are absolutely absurd. And so let's go to the case of Mr. Ian Roberts that happened about a year ago. He was literally the superintendent of education in the whole state of Iowa, and that story that nobody knew about. Let's go to a quick video on that.
Tonight, the former superintendent of Iowa's largest school district now behind bars. The DOJ charging Ian Roberts with one count of being an illegal alien in possession of firearms.
I'm excited to be a part of this journey.
Roberts, a native of Guyana, resigned from his position as the Des Moines superintendent Tuesday after he was detained nearly a week ago on allegations he was in the country illegally.
Sounds like this former superintendent isn't who he claimed to be.
School district officials say 2 years ago, Roberts claimed he had a doctorate from Morgan State University, but they say records showed he never obtained it. Despite the discrepancy, the district still hired him. Now, MIT saying Roberts' claim he was an MBA student there is also false. And George Washington University saying the Principal of the Year award Roberts boasted he received does not exist. In a statement, the Des Moines School Board saying they are a victim of deception.
Well, they deceived themselves with a heavy dose of DEI.
You see what? They are victim. You see, they are victim. Now they're getting in the victim Olympics now. Okay? They're oppressed. These poor people, they're oppressed. Yes, in truth, they are really oppressed. We should really acknowledge that. They're oppressed by their idiocy. That's what it is. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Once you you go full Democrat cult, it's pretty hard to come back to sanity. But anyways, here's yet another story. I mean, this is one we all saw in the fires that devastated Los Angeles about a year ago. Here's just yet another story we're probably all familiar with, but this is yet another DEI story.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Now, they literally thought that made sense to make that video and put that out there.
Could you imagine that?
Fire department personnel saying they can't do their job. I mean, but hey, they got the right skin color. That's all that matters.
That doesn't matter. But Jason, it gets back to the point I'm trying to make. This DEI stuff is a mind virus. Okay? Is as bad as Fauci's COVID that he developed in Wuhan, China. It's a mind virus. These people can't think straight anymore. How did Jason Audi think he could get away with this stuff forever? He never even thought for a second he will get caught. As a matter of fact, he told a newspaper reporter, I just thought you guys would believe me. Imagine that. He make up this long story. He thought they'll just believe him. No problem. Nobody questioned it. How does this person who's supposed to be a firefighter will think to say, well, you got yourself in that bad spot, so I can't take you out. What nonsense is this? What craziness is this? Or Claudine Gay climbing to the heights of Harvard, being the president of the university, and she have all this baggage in her background about plagiarism and that kind of stuff. I never thought for 1 second, well, somebody might catch up with me on this, so I better do something about it. No, they think because they have the right skin color, that's the mind virus. They have the right skin color. They could always get away with it because especially these white liberals, they're going to believe me. I ain't had to worry about that. They're going to believe me. It's when these hard-ass conservatives come around and start to look at stuff, is then I might get in trouble. But they don't ever think that somebody's going to question their authority because they have the right skin color. Or in Claudine's Gay's case, they have the right gender and the right sex. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
In the end, it's the right identity. And I mean, that was the thing, right? I mean, in this fire scandal, you had a fire that wiped out a city. And what were some of the issues that come out of there? I mean, one, you showing that people who were there for DEI reasons. The woman who was the running the fire department, they boasted she was the first lesbian fire chief, right?
The fire chief, yes.
Just, I mean, why does this matter? I mean, I remember when KGP, Biden's gosh, what do they call it? Press secretary, or she would come out, and every time she'd talk, she'd say, "I'm so proud to be the first Afro lesbian LGBTQ whatever." I mean, every time, right? And it's just like, yeah, it's nuts. It's like we're all supposed to just applaud or something when this happens, instead of just, just do your job, right? I mean, isn't that exactly where we want to get to? The idea that nobody cares, we just want to see you do your job, and that's it, right? That's the society we're supposed to want to get to. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. But anyways, I mean, it's all just a grift, and and sometimes these grifts get dangerous. I mean, as there's a cost, especially as these things go into government, right? Because there are services that these people are supposed to be providing. And this one guy was the superintendent of a school board. This other gal was some kind of an assistant fire chief or something. I mean, these people have real duties that, can they even perform them?
Life or death duties,
And speaking of life or death, here is one more story that is one of the most outrageous of these stories, and it happens to be that a police commissioner is now behind bars, and let's find out why.
Deputy Police Commissioner Mount Vernon charged in a jaw-dropping attempted murder case that investigators say she coordinated with her son and husband.
A police commissioner involved in a drive-by shooting? What is this, Gotham City?
In Bronx criminal court Tuesday, prosecutors detailing the jaw-dropping case against 49-year-old Jennifer Lackard, who until now had been a high-ranking Mount Vernon police commissioner. Back on June 29th, investigators say Lackard, her 20-year-old son Chase, and her husband James took part in a coordinated attempt to open fire on a group of people outside the Bronx criminal court complex, and then speed off in the family van.
As a police commissioner, maybe there's some misunderstanding. Maybe her son really isn't that bad of a kid.
Prosecutors say Chase Lackard is a known gang member, and one of the people in the targeted group was part of a rival gang. They also say he appeared in Bronx court on a prior gun charge the very same day he opened fire on the group outside. As of Tuesday, Jennifer Lackard had been listed as Mount Vernon's Deputy Commissioner of Wellness.
Deputy Commissioner of Wellness. Now you talk about a woke, ridiculous job.
Yes.
It has to, I mean, what the hell? This woman is in this position where she has this authority in the police department, and she's driving around gangbangers for shooting or something. Nuts.
Well, Jason, come now. She was just supporting her son, I mean, her job is to arrest people when they commit crimes. Obviously, this woman thought she'll take some of her work, of her job, her professional job. She'll take some of it home, and show her son how to do it right. How to be a good citizen by learning to shoot, learning to drive at high speeds of rate, and all this. She was just trying to educate her son. I mean, what is the problem here?
Well, my understanding is that I watched Nate the lawyer put out a piece on this, and he usually does pretty good pieces. And
he does.
He had this piece where he showed that I believe it was his piece where she had no real good qualifications. She was just some kind of community activist, but because of the Summer of Love and George Floyd, she got elevated. She was just part of one of these community boards or something that are supposed to pay attention to the police or something, and she got elevated because of the George Floyd thing. So it was just a DEI promotion. Hey, you're the right sex and skin color, you're the right identity, let's just elevate you up, and magically that'll make us a safer world. Instead, she's got a gangbanger son, and they're shooting up the town. Just nuts.
But I mean, you just raised this point. Talk about wokeness. Look at her title and her job, the Deputy Commissioner of Wellness. That is what we do. That is what law enforcement is these days. We're looking for somebody who could deal with wellness, and look at the kind of wellness she's trying to promote. being the driver of the getaway vehicle. Oh my goodness gracious. Huh? For your banging son? Why didn't you use some of your skills, your great skills, your skills in wellness? Why didn't you use it for your son? You don't think you need some of that? But no. Your DEI training didn't teach you none of that. It only teach you how to be, once you have that mind virus, how to use it to make a little bit of money and then move on. But she's so stupid. It was so stupid. And this is what all these DEI things come down to. These people with the mind virus, they're so damn stupid. They never think it's going to catch up with them. This woman, obviously, she must have thought she could have got away with it. Otherwise, she would not have done it. I would assume at least you would have thought that. But here we are, under arrest and about to go to prison, where she actually belonged, not trying to serve the community in any position related to law enforcement. This is crazy.
Well, and this is part of the issue, right? I mean, as a libertarian, we're already suspect of government. So, I mean, we don't have to be convinced that, hey, you're probably going to be underserved by everything government does. But this should, if you're somebody who has any kind of trust in government at all, and you see that these people coming in and getting these jobs and who clearly don't warrant them, I mean, why is it that you still have this faith in government, right? I mean, because most likely you're a Democrat if you thought these were good things, and if you're, you have a ton of faith in government, and to watch this parade of unqualified people, I mean, what's the science of letting these people into these jobs, right? I mean, how does this work out into a better world?
Well, I think you're asking for something that really don't exist. There's no science behind any of this DEI stuff. Okay, these people, I mean, we're joking about this mind virus. I think it's true. These people have some sort of mental disorder that they think that they can make the world a better place, and the way to do that is in their minds is to bring along, to give a helping hand, to give a handout to some poor person with the right skin color. They think that will make the world a better place. This is sickness on display. But these people really believe this stuff. They really believe they're doing good. Okay? So like this woman with Deputy Commissioner of Wellness. I mean, what the hell is that? You're supposed to be a law enforcement officer. What the hell is that? But these people believe that they're doing good in their position. This other one, this one from Guyana, which Guyana is not too far from Trinidad, by the way, is a short flight. These people think they're doing good because they can make the world a little better place by imparting some sort of knowledge upon the downtrodden. This is the kind of stuff they always dare to, with their savior complex, to help someone, when what they're doing is poisoning the society, poisoning the body politics. That's what they're doing. They're poisoning. They're bringing their poison and think it's good. And this is a serious problem with these DEI programs. They're destroying lives, but they think they're doing good. And this is one hell of a way to live your life.
Well, and it's keeping, not only is it is it unjust to put people in who don't merit, who have no merit, despite what Jason Arday thinks. He thinks merit's worthless, but for those of us who are saying,
merit is unfair and unequal,
Yeah, but for those of us who are sane and understand that you want the people with the most merit in the positions, because that's how you get the best product, that's how you get the best service, and yet, if just getting those people in, they're taking up a space that could be occupied by somebody who could serve us better, right?
Yes.
And that's the horrifying thing in all of this, is that, I mean, think of all those kids who were going to this Jason Arday's class and being underserved, right? I mean, having a guy up there who knows nothing else other than woke bullshit. That's literally all the guy is fluent in. He doesn't have a real degree. He's just spewing woke bullshit. The people at the school are saying, "You're the most amazing researcher ever. We love you."
Come on.
They put him in front of a class of kids who are paying a lot of money to be there. and then they're just hearing woke bullshit. They're wasting their time, and those kids aren't going to be as educated as they could be if they had somebody with more merit spending their time with them in front of the class.
And this is at a world-class university, Cambridge University.
Yeah.
This is a world-class university. I mean, probably one of the best universities in the entire world where this nonsense is occurring. You know,
and
go ahead. I'm sorry, finish. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the real tie-in to all these government jobs. How do you think that the people selected these people in these government jobs? Right? It's because they were fed all this bullshit when they were in college, whatever college they went to, you know, to just, you know, just that isn't that person amazing because they have the right skin color and they have a good story. That's just, it's so awesome, you know, and don't worry, what could go wrong. Right. And we just showed a trail of stories that are all within about a year of each other, right? Just huge scandals. So
it's just unbelievable, you know that nowadays you go on a plane and you see the pilot. If the pilot happens to be female or black, you have to sit and wonder, well, is this a DI hire or not? You shouldn't have to think about these things. The other day I was in my dentist's office, and the dentist, my regular dentist, wasn't there. Some other woman came to me, non-white, and you have to stop and think now. I mean, the dentist I have is a non-white dude. I just happen to be that case, and but the other one that came is also non-white. I don't know her, and that kind of stuff. But she's going to do some real work on my mouth here. You know, she's going to do some oral surgery here, and I have to sit down and thinking, you know, how did she get here now? Is she a DEI hire here I'm dealing with? But the point is, we as consumers of these services, whether you're flying on a plane or whether you're in a dentist's office or you go to the doctor or trying to deal with a surgeon. My brother is dealing with that right now as we speak. You shouldn't have to worry about these things. You should, I mean, I'm not saying things will never go wrong if we're strictly using merit. I'm not suggesting things will never go wrong, but you'll have less opportunities of things going wrong if you deal strictly with merit rather than if you're using all this DI bullshit.
Yeah.
And this is what people don't realize or don't want to realize. We have to get back to merit-based hiring, merit-based promotions. Whatever it is we do, it must be based on merit. Otherwise, we'll always be plagued and always be worried about, is this a DEI hire? Is my dentist? Or is this pilot? Or these are life and death situations it could be. Because if God forbid something happened, you're on a plane, and God forbid something happened, I don't care about the skin color of the guy. I care about whether he could land this plane if something goes wrong. That's what I would care about. Because it might be me on that plane, it might be my wife, it might be my children, my grandchildren on that plane. I don't give a shit about his color. I want to care about his skills.
Yeah, but notice the contradiction though that you bring up in the sense that we don't care. I think both me and you would say true racism is an irrational bias. So just if you look at somebody's skin color and you just automatically assume. However, that said, if government treats everybody differently based upon their race, they will create differences between races.
Exactly.
Where you know, if they say that, hey, look, this group of people only has to perform to 80% on a test, then they're going to wind up with results where people from that group are going to underperform in the real world on whatever that test was supposed to measure, right? And the sad thing is, it would be rational for you to say, hey, I'm noticing people of that group constantly under or overperform, but it may have nothing to do with the actual DNA. It has to do with the damn government getting in there and fucking everything up.
JC uses those big words. A good thing we're not on public access anymore.
Yeah. Well, this is so far in the late end of the show, it'll never be on public access.
Yeah. Thank God. Thank God, Jason.
Oh, but government, it should make everybody that mad. It should make everybody that angry that government is coming in there and they are dividing us, much like the quote that we had from the beginning of the show, you know, that this diversity, that they're just trying to get this magic word diversity, you know, and the real effect it's having is to divide us all. Right.
Exactly.
And it's having to, it's reducing our capabilities, not increasing our capabilities. And, you know, it's just so horrifying. And yet government is right there at the helm, steering this bullshit right into everybody's brains. And it's just horrifying, you know. And I mean, I've worked for government, you work for government, or worked for government, Leon, and we've been exposed to this shit where they force you to sit in a training session where, you know, they go through all this, you know, dividing everybody by skin color bullshit, right?
Oh,
and
damn nonsense.
Before you walk into one of those trainings, oh, I just saw that as Bob. I just saw that as Leon. Now suddenly we're all looking at each other by our skin and, you know, and gender and everything. I mean, it's just so terrible. Oh.
Well, I mean, it sickens me, as I believe in merit. I believe in merit to my core, and it truly sickens me that I have to live through experiences such as that, you know, where someone who I at one time respected will now look at me and tell me you are the perfect affirmative action hire, you know, things like that. And it's really sickening, to be honest. It really is, because people, they don't look at me or look at people who have a skin color close to mine. They don't look at them as individuals, as what that individual could contribute to this organization. They look at them as, if he's the right skin color, he could have he help with our quota numbers, with our diversity numbers, would make us look a lot more diverse company, or a lot more diverse organization, and all this damn nonsense, when what we should be interested in is the productivity of the person, or the merit that that person brings to the organization. But unfortunately, we have lost a lot of that in our society, and this is sad. It really is. So
no. Yeah, it's too bad, but I tell you, it's whenever this is the sad thing, right? I mean, we've talked about this before on the show, but you know, when you have a marketplace, it tends to weed out irrational bias, because irrational bias costs money. Irrational bias causes you to be less efficient. It causes you not to get the best personnel necessarily for the job. You know, like Joe Biden goes out and talks about how I'm looking for a woman of this color for this position.
Yes, a woman of color.
And then, you know,
he actually said that. He actually said that.
He said that, I think, with respect to two things. I think he said it with respect to his VP pick and Supreme Court pick. So, so it's just nuts, though, that, I mean, you know, we have this issue where, you know, people are, oh gosh, I kind of lost my train of thought. I got derailed by Biden. He got in there and Sleepy Joe took me off the track.
The mind virus, Jason, I tell you, it's contagious. The mind virus is contagious.
Yeah, well, the Biden, it's that lack of mind. Yeah, but it is just horrifying that this is, you know, so often this is government. Oh, that's what I was saying. It's the marketplace that actually causes us to be able to get rid of a lot of these biases a lot faster. And we've talked about it before, but the Jackie Robinson story is an excellent example of that, where, you know, here you have real competition. People are looking at real performance, real numbers, and suddenly somebody says, hey, why don't we take a chance on one of these guys? Because even though nobody else is using them, we think maybe we can make it work. And then boom, they're winning games. And then suddenly other teams say, hey, that doesn't make sense. Why would they're, you know, that's not supposed to happen. So maybe I should try, because this is unfair. They're beating us, right? They're eating our lunch. And pretty soon, even the Jim Crow South had adopted black players on their teams because they wanted to compete, even though the laws were restricting them from having black players down in the South. So, I mean, that's the power of the market, that it can overcome these irrational biases. And maybe some biases aren't completely irrational, but this is a perfect case where it was clearly an irrational bias, just to look at somebody by their skin color and not want them on your baseball team. And so in that case, it weeded it out, right? And it's such a great test for irrational bias, putting it to the marketplace test. And over time, people want to compete. People want an edge on their competitors, and that will help to see through the nonsense, right?
Exactly.
And in government, it just adds to the nonsense. All it does is pile on. The government biased us against black people back in the days of Jim Crow, and then now it's biasing us for black people or against white people now. I mean, it's just, no matter what, the government is just friggin' wrong. It never has the right incentives. And so, get to the market and you will solve, as if by an invisible hand, you will get rid of most of these problems.
Solve many of those problems. And I think it's worth saying, it's really worth saying, in the case of the Jackie Robinson situation, this was about 20 years before the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. 20 years, almost, not quite, but almost 20 years prior to that.
I think he came into the league, I think it was 1949, I think, or something
47.
like that. So
it was 47.
Okay.
47.
Yeah.
and imagine that in 1947, 20 years before almost 20 years before the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, that the marketplace was able to crush this damn nonsense that was going on in Major League Baseball. But like you say, when the government gets involved, everything turns to shit. We know that. It's such so.
Yeah. No, that should be the moral of the story. But I tell you, so I think we're about at the end of the show, and I think probably, unless you have any additional messages, Leon, I think we've probably shot our wad for this story.
Well, the only thing I would say, I hope and pray that one day we can get to Martin Luther King's vision, that is
not the socialist vision, but the good one.
The good one I'm talking about. The good one is his four little children. His four little children, and he hope and pray for his four little children to live in a world or in a country or in a nation where they are judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I want us to get to that day, and to get to that nation, and get to that world where the content of the character is most important.
I did want to say one thing on that too, because Martin Luther King, people who are on the socialist side, they try and say, why don't you ever talk about his socialist messages? If you think about that, that's the message he's known for, what you just said, that I hope my four little children will be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. That is absolutely not socialism. That is judging people as individuals. And that is the real message. So he was just confused about that economic bullshit. But he had the right message. He had found the right message on race. And I wish we could just see that on all things, right? But unfortunately, socialism, that free lunch is a big draw.
You do notice that many times on this show I've referred to Martin Luther King. Never once have I ever referred to his economic messages, right? You notice that,
right? Yeah. No, I just asked people, which would you rather remember him for? What he said about his four little children, or what he the forgettable crap he said about socialism. Anyways, I think that's we'll probably reach the end of the show. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. And until the next time, think about what you can do in your community to move the ball for freedom, because I tell you, these nuts and weirdos are trying to cram socialism down your throat and erode your liberty every step of the way. And the only way we stop it is if everybody stands up. So anyway, until the next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Oh, yes, indeed. Life
liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.